everybody, welcome to Podcast Viewfinder. No, it's called WorldView Finder.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome to WorldView Finder. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy. Off
I
to a
met-
great start.
That
Okay.
was like 5 years ago.
The first one we did.
It was like our first very episode, and we changed it after that. You still
we did not.
Can't get it right.
It was like that for a long time. Anyway, hey, this week we're going to be talking about the Jonas Brothers' new album, The
Year 3000.
We're also some crazy stuff well, actually, it's not in Florida. It's on the way to Florida. We'll see what
nice.
happened.
But it was by a Floridian.
Floridian Floribles. And then child YouTube stars and all that stuff. So, but first, I want to talk about, 2 weeks ago, we talked about AI.
Yeah.
And that stuff. And I was listening to the Natelian podcast. They did that one on robots, and they were bringing up stuff about like robots having artificial intelligence, and like where do you draw that line of like, okay, they become sentient or whatever? And they're saying by the year, I think 2029, they'll be sentient enough to like understand and like reason and do all this weird stuff. Because now it's what you type into it. That's what we talked about, like creating. Yeah. Like it's based on what we've created. But they were talking about like robots like having moral compasses and like having to like fight people, because they have like
to fight people.
They have robot police in like New York, and so they're like they can send in these robot things like first into these tough situations to like assess stuff. You're like, but what is it based on? So I was listening to that while mowing grass, and this guy pulls up in front of my yard, gets out, and he comes to me and goes, "Hey." He has his phone out, and he's like, my iPods or my AirPods led me to right here. And I noticed you got AirPods on. Are those mine?
No way.
And I was like, what? No, these are mine. Like, I did, but I don't know how to prove it, right?
And this was right after you stole them, right?
Yeah. It was,
Oh my goodness.
So because
That's weird.
So my AirPods have been acting weird. Like all my Find Me stuff has been, I don't know if it's the update or whatever, but like anytime I leave the house, it like pings and it's like, oh, you left this here. I don't
do that
all the time.
A lot of times it's like you was last seen here.
Yeah, but I'm like, but my AirPods for some reason have been acting kind of weird for a couple weeks now. But
you somehow switched him with this guy.
So
he's been looking for him for weeks.
Yeah, this guy was at the gym, but I always have him in my pocket, so I don't ever switch him with anybody or anything. So, but he's like so I had to play the sound from my phone to like ping mine, so like
to prove it.
These are mine.
Yeah,
but I was thinking, and he was a little bit weird.
Oh gosh!
To drive up to somebody and be like, "Those are my AirPods."
He didn't say those are mine, but it was heavily implied that like, oh yeah, it's so. But then he's like, oh, now it looks like they're over here. Maybe I'm going to just go knock on these people's
Let me go
door.
interrogate someone else.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just going to go door to door and be like,
"Sir, do you have my AirPods?"
I get, and so he's like, well, they're my dad's, and I thought I gave them back, but then he said I didn't, and so then I was looking for them. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you because.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this morning I couldn't find my keys, and it said that they were on the overpass, like between the Lloyd and 64.
And so she went out and stopped traffic.
Yeah.
Like, you got my keys.
I noticed you have keys there.
Which one of you drivers has my keys?
But it had like it wasn't my address, but it was like pinging in my yard. That and I was like, oh. I don't have the, but then I feel really weird.
Well, it does seem weird that it's like it pings in your yard and you are in your yard with
You're walking around, it's following you.
What are the odds?
I know. So I'm like, yeah, that's why he stopped. And so first of all, would you do that? Like if you had lost your AirPods, would you go like confront somebody? He didn't confront me. He was very kind about it. But
right.
He was,
It was a little weird.
Oh,
that was the fourth house he had gone
to. He said some F words a couple times.
Oh, gosh.
Not towards me, but just like, what's going
casual,
on?
yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm really nervous right now because you're at my house in my yard.
Oh, God.
Right.
Saying my AirPods are here.
I don't know. I don't think I would.
I could see. I mean, like
know.
if I had lost them and like you look up on the map, it's like, oh, it's 5 houses that way. Why is it over there? Like I'm going to drive over there and like, oh, and there's a guy mowing his lawn with AirPods.
Hey, did you find those? I dropped mine somewhere or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's
right.
I don't know. And I don't know if he even knows if they were stolen. He just was like, couldn't find them. And
right.
Then he tried to ping them. But that happened when we moved. Like they were pinging at my old house. And I went and like searched all around the yard and all this stuff because I thought they had fallen out during the move. and they were at
those things seem unreliable.
they were at my new house,
Yeah.
in a drawer, and I was like, wait, how did this happen? Like, I don't know. So so I would pose that question to our audience. Would you, if you thought somebody had taken your stuff, would you go get it back? I mean, that's the point of the Find My, right? Like,
in theory,
Find My app, to go get that stuff. But it was very bizarre. But here's what I was thinking with the AI stuff. What if AI started doing things like that, and like because you can take like people's criminal history, and if like people have like penchants for anger or fighting, and they like ping their AirPods or something somewhere, and then they just like they're trying to cause fights.
What?
Why would they try to cause?
No, because they're trying to take over. When AI,
Yeah.
I say when because it's going to happen. When they
Of
try
course.
to take over, I feel like they would do things like that because if you follow the 3 robot rules, like they can't harm humans, they can't let humans come to harm, and then there's a third one.
You
I
can
don't
only eat
remember.
fish on Fridays.
But-
But
they will turn humans against each other.
yeah, they could do that and be like, no, I was just pinging their AirPods. So I don't know. It's coming. It's going to happen. Mark my words.
Mark,
This episode.
clip this.
This episode told
just
you here.
remember-
2029 when AirPods become sentient.
It just starts. Yeah, I can play some music in here. So, you want to talk about Jonas Brothers because you had a major crush on them when you were in high school.
No, I didn't
Oh, okay.
actually.
I don't know.
I wasn't into the
Cannot
Jonas
confirm.
Brothers until I actually saw. I went to Les Mis in London,
What?
and Nick Jonas was a guest playing one of the characters. He's playing Marius,
Really?
and yeah, it was
Did
very
you have
bizarre.
to have a British accent?
I don't know. Do you have a British accent when you sing? Yeah, I guess so.
He sings in a British accent.
No. Oh yeah. So is there no talking in Les Mis?
No, I believe it's all song.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. But so he sang
Yeah, and
his way into your heart.
he did. And so then, actually, no, I don't know. I was into Nick Jonas. After that, I was like, I like him. But then the Jonas Brothers came out with a new album, and well, I just thought for our audience, if we want to talk about next gen and that, this is a big deal. Jonas Brothers released a new album, so
I
listen to it.
Yeah, I listened
Yeah.
to it last night.
Yeah, looked up the lyrics.
I did.
Yeah.
Jimmy, we listened to it just a little bit earlier, but
Yes.
okay. Overall, like musically, it's really cool. Like there's
Yes.
some really cool music.
It sounds
stuff.
Well,
very
that's
nice.
what I say is it seems like a lot of the tracks there's like a big variety
Yeah.
of styles,
So,
which I think is pretty fun.
yeah, and then there's no. Well, I think Waffle House. Do they bleep that cuss word? I know they did on the.
They probably don't on like the normal album,
I don't know. Yeah, but,
but
it wasn't.
it's pretty clean in terms of
There is no cuss words
in
except
terms of
maybe
no
Waffle
cuss-
House, unless
yeah.
they bleep it. I don't
but
know.
not clean in terms of lyric
Oh, boy.
content.
Yeah.
I would say.
There was some.
So-
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I would say it's like highly sexual content. So,
Highly. There's one song in
Extremely.
particular.
I mean, I would say most songs.
So some of it's more veiled.
I
but-
was it's like a lot of innuendo.
Yeah, but there's a beach one or something. The summer in the Hamptons.
Summer in the Hamptons.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
listen
yeah,
to that one. No,
Right.
but
No, I mean, that's the thing is, what I noticed, I was like, okay, what's kind of the worldview of the whole album? Trying to like, okay, but first of all, I think they're all married.
I think so. Yeah.
And so as I was reading articles about the album, it's more of a tribute to their wives and then even their kids in the song Little Bird.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Stop it.
There's
There-
a kid.
there's
yeah,
a song
at
called
the
Little
end.
Bird, and that's
Which is really
like
good.
that song is
Really?
very good.
Yeah.
I would
You
say
should
that's probably
listen
the
to it, Jimmy.
best song on the album, but it's a cute song for your kids. But yeah, I would say like a lot of it talks about it's very in a way spiritual.
Yeah,
like there's a song
it's very
called
bizarre.
Yes, yeah.
Weird.
Let's just say it's really a weird worldview because it has a lot of words like transcendence. There's a song called Miracle. They talk about like
Miracle.
higher power, that kind of thing, but it all has to do with basically sex.
Weren't they kind of Christian at the beginning? Sort
yeah, I mean, I
ish?
think they were.
Because
They're-
didn't one of them have a purity ring? Wasn't that like a big deal for
Yeah.
a while and stuff? So, But yeah, because I picked up on like there's a lot of spiritual talk in there, but when it yes, sex, but I think there's some love. Like it's a lot of it's love songs, but but they talk about it from a spiritual standpoint of like you're my everything and like all this.
Yeah, like
stuff.
you take me to the next level. Like how you. When I'm with you, it is like a miracle. You know those things.
You're
it's
my
very,
rock. I think it says that line. It like talks about you're my rock or my foundation. And if you're not with me, I'll die. Like
it is like some pretty.
That's deep.
Yeah, and I was thinking like kids listening to this, or even just youth, it puts this kind of image in your brain that how love is supposed to be and what it's supposed to be all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, like, I don't want to be, a wet blanket over these songs like, oh, these songs are bad. But like there is a downside to only like listening to songs like this and thinking that love is like this all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's like this person fulfills all these things about me, but it's like if that person's not there or that person messes up,
I will die.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's this like idea of oh man, I have to have this person in my life, and if she or he's not there, then my life's gonna fall apart. You're like, well, that's not a good way to live.
That's true.
Right.
So,
or like our love is like I think that it said like our love is transcendent, like above anybody else's type of thing, and you're like, that's really high standards, and it kind of makes you think like if my love with somebody isn't like this, then we like to say like play out the worldview.
Yeah.
So if you play that out of like you expect that to be the case, I think this is a large part on why relationships can be so fickle and jump to the next one, and their like commitment is very hard right now. And I think it's because of that, like that worldview that our world, like at least Americans, like we see this worldview come up time and time again, and we saw it in our episode where you talked about that movie Ghosted. It's like these relationships have very high standards.
Yeah, I remember I teach Truth Talk. It's a like a relationship program in schools, and in high school, there was a girl one time that like because we'll give examples of dates and things like that, and so she had written in on her question paper like. She's like, you guys kind of talk about these things like in a goofy manner, because like the date was like they're going like have a snowball fight or just do some like fun things like that, and she's like, I want a relationship that is transcendent, like that our love like is above everything. Like it was kind of this really like I want this deep relationship and stuff, and I was like hey that's great. But it's gonna take the goofy stuff and like the like getting to know you things to like get there, and like I could see it click in her mind like, oh. Like that,
right? Because that's what I'm saying. It's like in small doses. Like you can listen to one of these songs and just be like, "Oh, it's a nice love song."
Yeah.
But if our entire like world, or at least the United States, has this worldview and everything is pushing it, like I read a lot of YA novels, and gosh, the romance in those. Like, like Twilight and, even those older ones where it's like, your love is, past. I'm a vampire that's like 1,800 years old, and I've picked this one weird girl from high school, like
Bella. Bella Swan.
Like this high schooler. It's weird, but like when you're reading the books at that time, you're like, oh, this is like, this transcendent love.
Well, I think it's funny too, because you were talking about the girl in like junior high. If that's something she wants, you're probably not going to find that in a 13 or 14-year-old boy. Can almost assure you.
It has to be an 1,800-year-old vampire because nobody else is going to offer you that.
Right. But if you enter into a relationship, like a dating relationship, thinking like it's got to be this, especially in high school and middle school, like it's not going to be that.
Yeah, the standards you're going to have for that person aren't going to be met at all.
And a lot of love songs today are that. Like it's got to be this like deep, like transcendent miracle. Like it's got to be this, and if it's not that, you're like, I guess my love life is down the tubes. I don't know.
Right.
So
because like especially in committed, marriage relationships, there are going to be times, months, maybe even years that are hard.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be like this at all. And so when you hear these, then it can really discourage you too if you don't have your foundation set in the right spot. So that's my question that I wanted to talk about a little bit is like, we keep saying that this is not this isn't the correct worldview, but can we back that up biblically?
No. Yeah. And so, because the thing I've really been looking at recently in the Bible is just like how like we're called to die to ourselves and deny ourselves and to like put Christ above all things in our life. And I mean, it talks about like if you love your mother or father more than me, like it's like almost you have to hate them. And it's not saying like you go punch them or whatever. Don't punch your moms, kids. But no, but it's like our love for him has to be like what they're talking about in these songs. Like that's what has to be first.
Yeah.
And then because if that relationship is first, our relationship with Christ, then we can love like we're supposed to, because otherwise it just becomes this selfish thing, or I'm trying to get this from somebody else. And when we do that, it's backwards. Yeah. Like the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's first. And then love your neighbor as yourself. And so if we don't have a proper love of God, we can't love others in the right way. And so then it comes out in this, like, I have to find my fulfillment in these other people type thing.
Yeah.
Well, and it can be, you're talking about like the selfless thing rather than being selfish. I think a lot of people, they go into that, they're like, I want that. Like, I want this transcendent, this miracle of where I can feel this connection with the person so that I can be complete, so I can be fulfilled. And if you're looking for a person to do all that for you, one, that's probably not going to happen.
No, it's not.
And two, then it's a mindset of I'm just seeing what I can get from it rather than what I can give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to be in, because we all want that relationship.
Yeah.
But but if we don't love God properly, then it's not going to ever happen that way.
Right.
So, the last song on the album, Walls, I really like that song. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think they played it on SNL. I didn't watch the live version of it, but throughout like each song, like I'm like, there's like some really weird things. Oh, there was a lot of drug references too.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, a lot of smoking weed. But
Yeah, it's like a marijuana.
It's legal there.
I would say.
But then there was some like weird, this is what I don't like when I read song lyrics. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I'm like, I don't get what they're trying to say, because the Walls song, it's like you would make the walls cry. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what?
It's deep.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have any idea what that means, but the song was cool, and I'm like, I like this, and but there's like some cool beats, some funk.
Yeah. I gotta say it's a fun album to listen to, as much as we're kind of saying like the lyrics are kind of bad, but.
And that's like, you have to listen to lyrics in songs, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't listen to lyrics, but you do. Like, it gets in your head, and so it's like, what is it saying?
Yeah,
so.
you're repeating those things in your, like, on the way here, I was listening to Vacation Eyes, and it's like,
again, weird.
Yeah, it was weird, but it's like, I'm going to have vacation eyes for the rest of my life. And we were actually talking about this song at work, because we all had just gotten back from vacations with our kids, and we were like, if you saw my vacation eyes, it would be like bloodshot and like ready to be home. Yeah. Like anger and all this stuff. And I was like, and I'm going to have these vacation eyes the rest of my life. And I was like, well, what happens when you take your kids on vacation? Because you're not going to have those then.
So, all right. Well, check out or don't check out the new Jonas Brothers album. But just be wise with the lyrics ahead of time. But so, oh man, it's time for Florida Feebles. All right, so this happened in Denver, Colorado, but it was a Tampa woman on a plane about to fly back to Tampa, and as tends to happen on flights, sometimes you get a little bit angry. So this lady became belligerent. So I don't know what belligerent. I mean, that just like very mean. And so then after that, then she was asked to leave the flight. And so as she's getting escorted off the plane, she grabs one of the the intercom phones. You talk to the people and be sure your safety belts are fastened. She took one of those phones and then hit one of the stewardesses with it. She picked up an intercom phone and struck a flight attendant with it. So she was so mad that she
had to smack somebody on the way out
with the phone.
Like that's really gonna help your situation here.
Well, and like the idea that you like picked up the phone, like why don't you just like backhand her or something? I mean, did you not have it?
Hey, some people are like that. Like they don't hit; they just look for something to grab and then throw or hit somebody with.
She throws it, but it's on the spring. It comes back and just hits her in the face.
Are you a skin-to-skin fighter or are you
Some people,
object fighter?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're walking out, you're mad. Like, I mean, I think I would throw a punch rather than like a phone.
Well, then
Chris is a puncher.
You're a skin-to-skin fighter then.
That's true.
I don't think I would.
Chris has punched a flight attendant, but he would never smack her with a phone.
I feel like the
never
worst
punched
I
him.
would ever do is like maybe push somebody.
Push, like you just in anger. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but so when it comes to like worldview stuff on this, like I feel like on flights people are a lot more entitled than because you hear about this quite a bit.
Yeah,
On,
people
like,
getting so
airplanes.
mad on airplanes.
But why? Why on airplanes? Like why? I mean, traffic, the same thing.
Traveling
but like,
is a very high stress in
Yeah.
the first place.
yeah. So and now, like I was because the article doesn't give much detail. I want to know what happened. Like I want to know what started
this
this.
is what makes me mad. Is like why doesn't the
exactly.
article say like why she was asked to get off?
She became belligerent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the story started.
Yeah.
She became belligerent.
She became belligerent, and then she was asked to leave because I guess she was yelling and
Yeah.
throwing fits and all that stuff. But when it comes to traveling, it is stressful, and so like if you don't have your seat or somebody's in your seat or
Or if there's an 8-hour layover, or if you are about to miss your
like
flight
if
and then
you're-
it's delayed.
Patience. I
Kids
think people's
crying.
patience just like goes out the window. Well, yeah, like this past week I saw I think it was a TikTok where this lady just like she doesn't want to wait in that line to get off the plane. So she starts shoving everyone to the side and like pushing them into the seat as she's walking by and she's like I'm not waiting in this line. And everyone's like, it's funny because it was like a row of ladies that she was just like shoving into and all they started doing was yelling and like tattling on her to the flight attendant. They're like, this woman is just shoving everybody by. And they looked like little kids, like
my
telling
goodness.
their teacher on their friend or something. And I was like, what? It turns everybody into like babies.
Wait, you've flown?
I've flown
me and Jimmy
one time.
First time flying was with me.
So fun.
But yeah, and it was a little bit stressful because you've never flown before. But
Yeah.
but did you ever feel like I'm gonna fight
Like
somebody?
smacking somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know. When I saw those prices for those peanuts, I'm like, this is.
$5 for a little. Yeah, but I think like I could see myself pushing people if I got like because that time at the end of the plane ride, you get up and it's just I get a little bit claustrophobic because it's
Yeah,
like
'cause you
there's
get-
all these
you-
people around me and
Yeah.
I if something happens like I can't get out.
Yeah.
And so I feel like at that
Trapped.
moment I feel like something could go off in my brain where I'd be like I got to get out or I'm gonna flip out on everybody.
Now, do you think that at your worst, like you had the worst week of your life, and you get on the worst case scenario, you get on this flight, and then so many things go wrong? Do you think you could do what this person did?
Oh, absolutely.
You think
You
would say-
could hit somebody.
No, I wouldn't.
You don't
'cause
think
I
so?
don't know. Maybe you could.
my worst flying experience was coming back from China when we adopted our daughter, and she cried most of the way back. And
Well,
so
that's not a short flight, right?
oh, it is not. It's 12 hours. And so we had that flight, and then we hadn't really slept. And so basically, like I had been up for a really long time,
Yeah.
and that flight was late getting into the Detroit airport, and so we couldn't fly home that night, which we were supposed to. I don't know if you guys were already at the airport. I think some people are
Man.
preparing to go
Yeah.
to the Evansville airport, and so we got to Detroit. Our other flight to Evansville had already left, and so we had to get a hotel room. And I remember in that hotel room thinking like this is the closest I've ever felt to crazy because both kids were crying.
Yeah.
And like we hadn't slept and we were trying to like get them to go to sleep and we had like 5 hours to sleep until like the flight in the morning. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Oh, I
and
know.
so-
You get in that
so-
situation and you're
Yeah.
tired and there's so many other things going on.
So had I been on a plane and somebody's like, you need to sit down or
Would you choke somebody?
Get your kid under control. I'm like, you want to stay under control? Like I could see it then.
Man
but-
got belligerent and was asked to leave the. Well, and then it's like you're asked to leave.
Yeah.
You're trying to. You're like, oh, you can't go home now.
The last flight we were on, my daughter did that. She cried the whole way, and it was like a 2-hour flight, and it was not good. But the next day, because my dad was on that flight too, so the next day my dad saw this man that was on our flight, and that guy was like, "Ooh, how about that crying baby the whole time?" And and my dad was like, "Yeah, my granddaughter was having a really hard time. She has an ear infection." And the man was like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah.
Like, whoops.
You slipped that in. Zing. That man became belligerent. But yeah, so hey, if you're traveling, don't hit people with phones or anything for that matter.
Just put your stolen AirPods in.
Yeah,
Relax.
exactly.
My AirPods pinged on this plane. Sir, you can't be on this plane. They pinged. That kid. He's got AirPods.
That's
got
what
AirPods
happened.
in.
She was like, "This lady next to me, my AirPods are dinging in this spot." She stole my AirPods.
And they start fighting. All right. Well, hey, we'll end our time with we're talking about YouTube channels, because child YouTube stars are like a really big deal, like kids YouTube and stuff like that. But when you were if you were a kid starting a YouTube channel, what would your YouTube channel have been? Like in your time period that you grew up in.
If YouTube existed.
When
I was a kid.
If I was like high school, middle school, because the technology that you kids have nowadays, I'm telling you, it's awesome.
With all your fax machines and microwaves.
Yeah, with those newfangled flight attendant phones, pick up at a moment's notice. But no, because we would make videos for our classes, but the editing stuff, we didn't have.
Well, like I said in that other episode with Lord of the Rings, I
VHS tape.
recorded. Yeah.
Oh, you recorded the screen.
I recorded the screen because there was no way to download. And
I had a friend, because I did a project on Pinky and the Brain, another one.
Wow.
I did
one
several,
of 5.
Yeah, 2 major projects in school, in my high school. But he somehow got clips and was able to. I don't know how he did it, but he did. He
was a hacker.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, ahead of his time.
Yeah, and so
he works for Disney.
So we would make videos. So we made a spoof on the Blair Witch Project.
Oh,
none of us had seen it.
I remember
you didn't
that.
even
we
see
called
it.
it. We called it the Hair Witch Project.
Using my playground.
Yeah, we used the
swing
playground.
set.
It was super dumb. There was a scene with a one-armed man trying to get across monkey bars.
Oh, gosh.
It made no sense. The whole thing was really bizarre.
Genius.
But in the process, because you would film a scene and then you'd have to go back and watch it, because it was all recorded on a VHS thing. And if you recorded it on the smaller ones, you had to figure out a way to get it to VHS so you could actually watch it. And so it was just, the whole process was so cumbersome and so difficult, because you had to because now you just film a couple scenes and then okay, this is the best one, and take the clip of it and all that stuff. And so a lot of high school projects we did, in Spanish class, we had to make videos for that. And so I feel like if
Pinky and the Brain in Espanol.
Yeah, in Espanol. Our Spanish ones were great, but I would probably have done movie spoofs with my friends. It would have just been us making cheap versions of movies,
Be Kind, Rewind.
Yes,
Sweden, the Sweden version.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie, and it was disappointing.
It was.
I was excited for that movie, but you've never heard of it.
No, not even close.
Jack Black.
Jack Black.
Yeah,
Oh, I've heard of him.
because
he basically does that. He spoofs all the movies in his video store because he erases them on accident.
he erased all the movies.
So he has to redo it.
So yeah, but he makes, and then people, but it could have been a lot funnier, and it wasn't. So
Nice.
All right, what about you guys? What YouTube channel? What would you have?
I think I would have been one of those. It would have been Antique Roadshow, but with my Beanie Babies.
Oh gosh.
Now this Beanie Baby was,
that's what
born in 1993.
Give a whole backstory.
Old lumpers or whatever, because they have the weird names this was born on October 23rd.
Yeah, their birth date, and it's no, you can see this tag is black and white before they turned red.
Old school.
The Beanie Babies.
I think I'd have been one of those, showing off my Beanie Babies.
That's a big thing. For me, it would probably, I was really into, when I was younger, parkour and trampoline tricks.
Ooh.
So I watched a lot of trampoline trickers on YouTube. And I was into trampoline trickers, trick or treat, and parkour stuff. So that was
horse stuff.
Parkour.
Trampolines.
Oh, we've got a horse girl
Horse
on our
trampoline.
hands.
Trampoline. Yeah.
You put the horse on a trampoline and it gets wild.
You parkour off its back. So
Parkour. I would do that.
do that.
That was fun.
all right. So Jimmy, tell us about child YouTube stars.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Why it's the new craze.
It's the new craze. Well, so to give some backstory, so me and Chris went to a YouTube conference, and one of the speakers up there, he was a manager for a bunch of YouTubers, and he was like, how many of you guys know the #1 single most subscribed YouTuber in the world right now?
We all thought of Mr. Beast.
Everyone, they yell at Mr. Beast or T-Series, which is a Indian production company, so that wasn't a single person, so that didn't count. But he's like, no, it's actually this 8-year-old girl named Like Nastya. That's her channel.
Yeah.
So at the time, she had 102 million subscribers, and Mr. Beast had like 98 million subscribers.
Wow.
So, but she's an 8-year-old. So he gave a little bit of a backstory. So she's got Like Nastya, and then she's also got a bunch of other channels that are Like Nastya, just overdubbed in all these different languages.
Yeah.
But so she's 8 years old right now, and the biggest subscribed YouTube channel. And he's like, I approached their family, and he's like, basically our vision behind it, we were gonna build her into like this Disney empire.
Yeah.
And they signed her when she was 3 years old. So this was the plan by the time when she was 3 years old. That it's like, this is our plan. We're gonna build her into this media empire that everyone for years and years will remember like Nastya.
Is she still?
Well,
making stuff?
interesting. Yeah, so she's still doing it, and so at the time she had 101 million subscribers, and Mr. Beast had 98. She's at 103, and now Mr. Beast is at like 154. So
wow.
he's
surpassed her.
Yeah, he's got
Okay,
another
but
50 million.
what's her thing? What does she do?
So I've watched
It's
a
the worst.
I watched so it's kind of almost like just cartoons that kids would watch. So basically she goes through a lot of it.
She's not a cartoon.
She's not a cartoon. So it's her, but then they are at their house or they're at some other place, and they do like go on an adventure. And there's other characters that are played either by her parents or other people, and it's kind of like just following her doing different stuff, or they'll do like a certain activity.
The one we watched, it was the rules of the hotel.
Oh yeah.
Like when you go to a hotel, how do you behave?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, don't jump on the bed.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and it shows her jumping on the bed. And then her dad's like, no, no, no. And then she gets down. And he's like, don't run through the halls yelling. And then she does it. And then he's like, no, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate everything.
But do little kids?
Well, apparently so.
100 million
100
of them.
million kids like it. Yeah. Wow.
So
the
but there's a lot. There's quite a few.
Oh yeah,
younger one.
Yeah. So she's 8. I mean, one of the most popular one was Ryan Toy Reviews. He was the
Do you remember
biggest
that guy?
one for a long time. Oh really?
Wait.
So-
Ryan's Toy Reviews.
Oh yes. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where he
yeah.
would like he would
Yeah,
open
yeah.
up toys and play with them, and then
Yeah.
like I mean people sponsored him.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's older and they're weird videos.
oh, I don't watch it
Because he's like, oh hey mom, let's play a game together. But they had like a
Yeah.
one of those
So is
tables.
he still big?
He's not as big.
Not-
Well, not as popular, but what they've done really well is now they have like all these products you'll see in like Walmart and Target, where it's like they have a whole line of stuff. Because I
Right.
think just from like the YouTube channel, at one point they were making like $24 million a year just from the YouTube stuff, and now that they've gone into merchandise and all of that, I'm sure
Yeah.
they're making quite a bit more.
Oh my goodness.
So what? Like, is that okay? Is it okay to take a 3-year-old and be like, we're gonna make this person into a empire?
Yeah.
And she
like
has
you have
no
a
say-
trajectory for their life
Yeah.
for a couple of years at least.
Yeah. And so, but
So that's the
she
question.
really doesn't have a say in it. It's her parents.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're Russian, right? It's Russia.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna make lots of money, and they're like, they're very well off from their house and stuff that
Yeah.
they do tours of and all
Well,
that.
yeah.
And so, yeah, would you do that if somebody came and like offered Amos is 5? Like, hey, I would
don't-
for Shepherd. Shepherd would be hilarious. My son.
And they're like, yeah, and you'll probably have $10 million by year 6.
See, yeah, when you add money to it, it's hard to like
Yeah.
not, go down that route. And I don't know. Like, I think I would have to constantly, well, that's the thing is like I have a lot of friends who don't put their kids on social media.
Yeah.
And because it's not really their choice, and if you
Put them out there.
Yeah, and it just seems like you're exposing them to the world, to public, especially 100 million people.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a lot.
that's
That is a lot.
And you've basically decided something for them that's going to affect the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But you do that anyway with your kids, but not on like such a
No,
You just
not
don't
on
get paid
such a-
for
On a
it.
global scale.
not on a global scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have people. That's the thing, is you're bringing other people into your family and
Yeah.
into your life and
Yeah.
having them dictate that.
Well, and it become like you almost have to be that person on screen all the time. Like,
Yeah.
Because if you're out in public and you just want to be a regular 8-year-old and like throw a fit and get in trouble, I mean, that reflects badly on the brand.
Yeah.
And so you have to you have to monitor that. And so it's probably
Right.
like, oh, here's where you can go and what you can do. And so you kind of miss out on some of the childhood stuff. I think recently, I don't know if it was you or not, like somebody was talking about Jim Carrey, like he became Jim Carrey the character,
Yeah.
and everybody expected him to be that way, and he couldn't really be himself. Like he couldn't
Yeah.
be what he wanted to be because everybody's expecting him to be this goofy, over the top guy, and so it's like, I mean, he's a grown man, and so as a kid, like, how do you work through that stuff?
Well, I'm sure we'll have more of these examples as these first generation kid YouTubers
Yeah.
age out, because we've already seen some of the consequences with that of Disney kids.
and Nickelodeon kids,
Yeah, they like, a lot of them are very outspoken about their journey, and they
Yeah.
like usually go through some sort of, not necessarily crisis of faith, but crisis of identity.
Yeah.
And were the
and-
Jonas Brothers like that? Because were they on Disney
They were.
or Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
They had a show.
Yeah.
They were on Disney
Was Disney?
because
Okay.
they
Yeah.
did like Camp Rock and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Sam from iCarly was very much that way, where she's written a whole book basically saying why. I think the book title is like, "I'm glad my mom died," and basically
Yeah.
talking
Oh, yeah.
about how she hated her mom and her mom forced her to do this because they had no money, and she hated it the whole time, but she just continued to do it.
Wait, she had no money?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of what got them into it.
Oh, okay, they didn't
They
have
were
money and
poor,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I guess I've seen that book title, but I didn't
Yeah.
know what that was about. So it's the girl from iCarly.
Yeah.
Which I never watched. But
It's a good one.
But we've seen
Yeah.
like child stars like a lot. Like Macaulay Culkin was one that kind of went crazy for
Off
a
the
while.
deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and there's more
a lot.
There's more stuff coming out. I mean, this goes into the deeper, like, Hollywood scandals,
Right.
and
Yeah.
of like what you're expected to do, and those sort of things as kids to get these roles.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to some degree, I think that is possibly the good thing about YouTube is it's your parents running it. And then obviously if you
Yeah.
bring a manager in, then they have some say. But I have seen some kid YouTube channels where literally it's just the kid and the parents, and they'll go out and do a fun activity for the day. And
Yeah.
because they have money into the channel, they're able to do more and more fun stuff. It's like they go to this giant trampoline park, or they fill their living room with these balls that they get to play in, like a giant ball pit, and just it looks like they're just going out and doing fun stuff all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what, because there's other YouTube channels that do that, like with kids, but then there's Blippi,
Yeah.
who kind of goes around to
Yeah.
stuff. And so, but if you watch that stuff as a kid, do you think, oh man, I wish my family had a giant ball pit living room? Like, or is it
Maybe.
like, do you kind of start to, I mean, covet those things, like wish, like, oh, my life isn't good because
Well, it's just like starting them on the train just early.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because we're already like, we are like that when we watch
Yeah. You
TikTok and reels and stuff. You're like,
Yeah.
that's just a problem that everyone faces. So you're just kind of exposing them to them early. I think, okay, so going back to the question, like what I do with my kids, I think in healthy ways that I've seen families do this is if the kids do like YouTube channels and they've asked,
Yeah.
like they've said, like, I want to start a YouTube channel building with Legos, or I want to start a YouTube channel where I bake for people. And
Yeah.
then the parents are like, just help them out with that.
Yeah.
But they say like, okay, you're going to do it though. And so they don't like
So they're not running it like you have to keep doing this.
Yeah, they're not signing them when they're
Until
3.
the checks come
you
in.
know, when they're
Yeah.
3 years old, they're like, "Ooh, you're gonna
Better
be
bake
on
them another
YouTube."
pie.
Yeah.
You get back to that kitchen. So my daughter wants to. Quincy wants to make a YouTube channel. Like she's done like some drawing stuff and things like that, and she like wants to get into it further. But I'm like, as a parent, like I don't know. I don't want you in that world because I know for me, because I mean, recently I preached and you guys put up some reels, and one of them kind of out of context about something, and like people are like, I can't believe, like, because we did the NF reaction videos, like, oh, I like you reacting to NF, but this is too much. I was like, I think I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I know
But
how
it
that makes me
affects-
feel.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
of like
affects
comments and
your
stuff.
identity.
And so I don't want to expose that to my kid who's like figuring out who she is and all that stuff, and then like to have all these people.
Yeah,
just say crazy
especially
stuff.
if you're gonna read the comments and adjust around
Yeah.
your audience.
Well, I
That's
would
hard.
recommend to not
Yeah.
do. If you have your kids to have a YouTube channel, don't have them read the comments. As a
Yeah.
general. Well, and I mean, a lot of kids' channels, because kids' YouTube is different, where
Right.
a lot of the channels they don't have comments at all, or that they're heavily kind of filtered and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
hopefully you won't be getting that kind of stuff.
I want exposed to everything.
Yeah.
This is how
Yeah.
the world is. So
I don't know. See, I obviously I don't have a kid, but I feel like that would be something, especially like you said, if there is some interest in it, and if you have a hobby, hey, let's try this and just make some fun videos out of it and just see what happens. See if you like doing this. See if and just it's a fun activity.
Yeah.
I might be biased. I like YouTube.
I did take my son on one of our Fresh Fish Friday.
That's true. He's a
videos.
YouTuber now.
Yeah, and so, and he was really funny. He's like telling jokes and
That's
stuff.
true.
And headbanging to hardcore music. It was great. But I don't know. Like making that a career for him, I don't think I would do that.
Really?
Yeah.
But for me,
For you,
if I make a career out of him, for me,
Ah,
yeah,
there
that
you-
money.
So if your kids kind of did it on their own, how would you feel about them having YouTube as a career?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like YouTubers have to work really hard. Like
Yeah.
like they're
Well,
like,
and that's
lot
why
of
they're
time and
able
work.
to get those outsized rewards is because they are working exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's a guy, like, he was a streamer, and he's like, I haven't had a day off in like years, because like you have to do it every day, and you have to like keep making content, and it's like a constant
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and we've talked about that burnout already.
Yeah, totally.
So I think like any job, you're just gonna have to set boundaries and all that. So it's just gonna be harder for kids.
Right.
And so as a parent, you're gonna have to really coach them through
Well,
that.
and I do think, unfortunately, because I've talked to multiple people like this, is people, especially kids, they see these big YouTubers and they think just by making a couple of videos, well, then you get super famous and super rich.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like they see Mr. Beast and it's like, oh, he's just on there, he can make videos and he's got all this money. So if I become a YouTuber, I'll just be super rich and famous. And they don't realize that he has put literally more than a decade of obsessing in this and working 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for a decade to do that.
Right. So, yeah. And I think, there are parents that listen to this, and so just be wise with how you let your kids interact with any social media, because it does become this hole that I get pulled into as an adult of like, oh, I've got to make more videos, and I like when we post podcast stuff, I'm like, oh man, this one didn't get as many views as the last one. What do I need to change the thumbnail to, or the title, or like, oh, this short only
and
got.
you just start chasing the wrong things, and it's like, why did we do this in the first place?
Yeah.
And it's because we had a passion for something, and then you start focusing on the wrong things.
Well, and I've heard this quote before, but I really like it. It's a man that loves to walk will always walk further than a man who loves the destination. So, and I think the good thing about YouTube is you can have a super passion for Beanie Babies, and you can make $50,000 a year by putting the work
Just
in and
by
doing it
selling
for
Princess
years,
Diana
and
Bear.
just talking about Beanie Babies. Like, people want to watch that content. If you can be the person that does that, you can basically replace what you would work at a 9 to 5 just by talking about Beanie Babies. So I think that you don't have to. Not everyone has to be Mr. Beast, where you're the top YouTuber in the world. You can have a YouTube channel talking about things you're passionate about, and I think you can make that into a career.
Yeah. So work hard, kids. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us for Worldview Finder. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
We'll see you next time.